In this video, we're going to be looking at how to do rotations. Now, to rotate a shape, we need two pieces of information. We need to have a point about which we're going to rotate the shape, and we also need to know how far are we going to rotate the shape, so an angle of rotation. Now, we're only required to be able to rotate shapes by either 90 degrees, 180 degrees, or 90 degrees the other way. So we've got two choices of 90 degrees, either clockwise, which goes around to the right, or we have anti-clockwise, which goes around to the left. 180 degrees actually doesn't make any difference, because if you think about it, you're just turning half a turn. It doesn't matter which way you go, whether you go clockwise or anti-clockwise. So we're going to do 4 examples of rotations. We're going to rotate this shape. We're going to rotate it in different directions, so 90 degrees clockwise and 90 degrees anti-clockwise. And we're going to do a couple of rotations of 180 degrees, and each time we're going to use different points about which we can rotate it. So the common one is the origin, 0, 0, and then I've just picked some other points that we can show how we do it. The process is going to be the same, but we must make sure we know how far we're turning the shape and about which point. They are the crucial pieces of information that we have to have. So the first thing we're going to do is rotate the shape 90 degrees clockwise about 0, 0. Now normally we would do this with tracing paper, and we would trace around the shape and we'd include the point we're rotating about. But because we maybe don't have tracing paper, another way of doing it is by having an image of exactly the shape that we're going to be doing and the axes, which I've got here. I'm going to place it over the top of my coordinate axes so it lines up perfectly. So if you look at this as close as we can, it's not the best scenario, but this works quite nicely. So it looks like it's in the right place. We're rotating by 90 degrees about the origin, about 0, 0. Now the trick is, you can use a pair of compasses as a pin, or I've used a pin here. And we're going to rotate it so it goes around this way, clockwise, by 90 degrees. To happen for 90 degrees, the vertical axis has to become the horizontal axis. So what I'm going to do is, holding the pin in place, I'm going to rotate it around, and I'm going to try and make sure that my squares are pretty well lined up. And if you look, I've got it, it's pretty good. It's not perfect, and obviously you can see when you do this yourself, you can be a bit more accurate than I'm being here. Okay, but it lines up quite nicely. Now the trick is going to be, you could use your pin, and you could mark points through the paper where your object is going to go. I've actually got holes there already, so I'm actually just going to use I'll use a pen actually. I'm actually going to use my pen, and I'm going to put some little marks just through the holes where the coordinates of the corners would be. Okay, now when I take this off, so hopefully I'll take this off and you can see there are the points there. Now they're not quite in the right place, but I know they're going to be exact. So if I was to draw this out, what I'd actually be doing, and thinking about what my shape looked like, my shape is that orientation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw it, but I'm actually going to go to the point that's nearest it. So my point would go to here, and now it's going to come down to here. So although where the holes weren't quite perfect, I can actually join it up pretty nicely. Okay, so we can see where it's going to go. Okay, and we could keep going and keep filling our shape in. Okay, so I know that it's going to go up there. Okay, and I can just have my other shape next to me so I can copy it. So it's going to go across there. It's going to come down here. And so we have our image having been rotated by 90 degrees about the origin clockwise. Now, if I had tracing paper, I could be a little bit more accurate where those dots are going to go, but this one works quite nicely. This time we're going to rotate our shape 180 degrees about the point 5, -1. So the first thing we're going to do, as before, we're going to line up our axes so they're perfectly in alignment. So it looks like, to all intents and purposes, that we've got the original shape just there on its own. We're going to put our pencil or compass point or whatever through the point 5, -1. We're going to rotate it by 180 degrees. Now, when I rotate by 180 degrees, the axes will go through 90 degrees and then keep going round to 180 degrees. Now, when they're 180 degrees, which is going to be around about here, we need to try and make sure that our squares are lined up as best we can as before, so everything is in quite nice lines. Again, with my pencil, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark through, and remember I've got little holes there which I can use, so I'm going to mark through where my points are going to go. You don't necessarily need to do all of them, because a few of them, and you can probably work out what's going to happen. Okay, I move it away, and we can see that we've got some of the points marked here. Now, they're not terribly clear, but I can see that my shape, now bearing in mind I can have my object next to me as well if I want to, and I can draw out where my shape is going to go. So I can see that it's going to come down here, then it's going to go across here. Okay, it's going to come back down there. Okay, there are very faint marks on my paper which you probably can't see on the video, okay, which show me where it's going to go to. And I would normally use a ruler for this, but I'm doing it for speed here to join them up. In the third example, we're going to rotate the shape 90 degrees anti-clockwise about the point -1,6. So it's going to go the other way, it's going to go to the left this time. So as before, I'm going to line up my axes. So trying to make them as close a fit as I possibly can, and I can see they're pretty good. It works quite nicely, this method. The point -1,6, so -1,6 would be here. I'm going to put my pin through that point, -1,6. Now if I rotate it anti-clockwise, it's going to go around the other way. So this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it that way round, so it's going to go to the left, and the horizontal axis is going to become vertical. Okay, and I can sort of see where it's going to be about right, because my squares are lining up, my lines are lined up quite well vertically and horizontally. So my shape is going to go to here. So again, with my pencil, I'm going to put hole marks through the holes. Okay, and hopefully I've got some marks there which we can see. Okay, again, not terribly clear as to what's happened here, but I can actually see where the points have gone to. And if I was struggling, if it was there, I could think to myself, well, what's happened to my axes? Where is it going to be? I'd rotated it about that point, so I can lift it up and I can think, oh, what's happening to it there? And I can see that it's going to be on the top line there is actually going to be on my axis. I can see the little indentations on my shape, so I can see that it's going to go there to there. It would come down my axis there, and again, using my shape to help me if I want to. Coming down here, going to go across there. This one's going to go up. It's going to go in. Okay, it goes up to here. There's a little dot there, so I can see it goes up to there, to here, and to there. And again, we can check it, we can just go through the process again, roughly line up -1,6, and you can see that those two things are pretty much in the same place. For the last example, we're going to rotate the shape 180 degrees about the point 0, -1. So again, we line up our axes as accurately as we possibly can. Okay, so about there. 0, -1, so 0, -1 will be point here. So that's the point I'm going to rotate around. And this time we're rotating by 180 degrees, so it doesn't matter which way I turn. I can go either way. We're going to rotate down, and we want that axis to be facing all the way down So the y-axis has just changed direction really. It was going up to down, now it's going down to up, if you like. Again, look at my squares. My squares are nicely lined up. All the lines pretty much are in line. We know this is not going to be 100% accurate, but it's going to be reasonably good. Okay, so I've just moved it slightly around. Again, I'm going to mark my points. You do need a sharp pencil for this. And even then it doesn't necessarily mark terribly easily, but we're going to go through and do this anyway. So we've marked our points, okay? And now we're going to draw our shape. And again, if we put the matching shape next to it, I don't know if you can see on the video, but there are little dots on my paper. We go to here, to there, going across. It's going to go down, it goes across here, to there, back again, and across. Okay, and we can check it, we can see that it's right, because again, looking what's happened, if I line up my paper here, okay, so it's pretty close. I put my point through 0, -1. I'm going to rotate it around 180 degrees, so I'm going to turn it around so the axes are facing the other way. So we know that's pretty much in the right place. Okay, I'll hold my paper, and if you lift it up, you should see that underneath it is pretty much where my objects are going to go. Okay, there might be slight inaccuracies where my top paper is, but I think that's pretty good. Okay. Now, if I was using tracing paper, I could do exactly the same as I'm using for this piece of paper. I could do it on tracing paper. I could trace around my shape. I could stick points in. And actually, what's quite nice on tracing paper is I could draw a line from the point. So if I was rotating about a particular point, I could draw, for instance, if I was rotating about that point, I could draw a little arrow pointing that way. And when that arrow changes direction, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 90 degrees the other way, I can see very easily. So that's an alternative way of doing this.